In the headlines for this hour on VTV News, Prime Minister and the World Bank leaders discuss deepening partnership for sustainable development. And credit shows signs of recovery. In our world news, as many as 2,000 people die in Papua New Guinea landslide.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello, it's 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi. You're watching VTV News. Continuing the 7th session on Monday, the National Assembly debated the draft amended law on social insurance. More to follow.
Some deputies propose another option regarding the provision of one-time social insurance withdrawal. Under this option, employees who have been participating in social insurance before the law comes into effect and who are ineligible for compulsory social insurance after 12 months opt out of voluntary social insurance and have contributed to social insurance for less than 20 years will be entitled to a one-time social insurance withdrawal if requested.
I recommend choosing this option because this limits a societal disruption and inherits existing regulations. This option also helps prevent some social insurance participants from receiving a one-time payment multiple times.
Most workers who participate in voluntary social insurance encounter financial difficulties. Therefore, they need money to solve their problems immediately. To limit lump sum withdrawals, more provisions in the voluntary social insurance policy must be supplemented so that participants can feel more assured.
Proposals regarding expanding the number of social insurance participants also garner much attention.
The Law Drafting Committee also needs to include workers with irregular hours as participants in social insurance, such as platform workers. According to Article 13 of the Labor Law, these individuals are still classified as laborers since they enter into contracts with enterprises and receive compensation based on their productivity.
Some deputies believe it's necessary to consider expanding the number of subjects participating in mandatory social insurance.
The law drafting agency must collect opinions from subjects affected by the draft law. The priority should be more than just increasing social insurance payers, but rather addressing the needs of all the participants involved.
The National Assembly will continue the plenary session on the revised draft law on social insurance on Monday afternoon.
On May 27, Prime Minister Phie met with World Bank Vice President Manuela VTVgo and World Bank Country Director of Vietnam, Laos and Cambodia, Mariam J. Sherman in Hanoi. The Prime Minister expressed appreciation for the World Bank's support of Vietnam's socio-economic development since 1993, with funding reaching about $25 billion, particularly in poverty reduction. He called for the World Bank continued assistance in fostering sustainable growth and various modern economic models. VTVgo, for a part, noted the World Bank's trust in Vietnam by establishing a regional office in Hanoi, emphasizing the lenders' commitment to efficient collaboration. Prime Minister Phie welcomed the proposed $11 billion in World Bank lending for infrastructure, energy, and agriculture over the next 5 years. He urged the World Bank to provide flexible capital management and preferential loans for significant infrastructure projects. Additionally, he sought the World Bank's support in assessing the global carbon credit market to finance Vietnam's climate goals. The Vietnam Department's Peacekeeping Operation VTVgo under the Ministry of National Defense held a ceremony in Hanoi on May 27 to mark the 10th anniversary of its founding on May 27, 2014, and received the third-class Fatherland Protection Order. The event saw the presence of Deputy Prime Minister Trần Lưu Quang. Over the last 10 years, the country has sent over 800 officers and professional soldiers to UN peacekeeping operations, including 5 detachments of the Level 2 Field Hospital to the UN missions in South Sudan. 2 others of the engineering unit to the UN Interim Security Force for ABA, and 114 officers deployed as individuals. The number of active Vietnamese peacekeepers is much higher than the UN's average. Latest data shows that credit across the entire economy has increased by approximately 2% compared to the end of last year. This equates to an additional credit balance of over $10.3 billion since the beginning of the year. Credit growth is recovering from the negative developments in the early months of the year, but many more efforts are needed to realize the annual credit growth target of 14%.
To fulfill new orders this year, this company is expanding its manufacturing facility with a capital requirement of over $390,000.
Compared to 7% last year, the 5% interest rate is reasonable for factories to expand production and prepare to welcome new orders.
Commercial banks have had to publicly disclose average lending rates for the past 2 months. The average lending rate for new loans is currently around 6.5% per year, down 0.7% year-on-year. This is also the first year that banks were allocated credit growth limits at the beginning of the year. Thus, they can develop annual loan programs early on, including a variety of tailor-made loan packages to meet the needs of new and green production models.
MB's green credit debt falls over $2.4 billion, accounting for 10.15% of the total debt. We have specialists to quickly assess projects and demands for capital mobilization of businesses.
In 2024, Agribank continues to register an additional $196 million of preferential credit for agriculture, forestry, and fishery sectors.
Currently, several major economic hubs with higher than average national credit growth are also promoting various bank business connection programs to boost credit. For example, in Ho Chi Minh City, more than $78.5 million has been disbursed for short-term loans with preferential interest rates for local businesses.
Lending interest rates that are 1 to 2% lower than the average commercial bank lending rate meet all the needs of businesses and business households.
Despite these positive results, credit growth must triple in the next month alone to meet the requirement of 5 to 6% by the end of the second quarter, as per the latest announcement of the Prime Minister. This requires substantial determination from the banking sector and recovery efforts from businesses.
May recorded the biggest increase in foreign direct investment capitals in the beginning of the year, with figures nearly triple compared to April. Overall, from the beginning of the year to May 20th, the accumulation of newly registered, adjusted, contributed capital and shares purchased by foreign investors have reached over $11 billion, up 2% compared to the same period last year. The disbursement speed also increased by 7.8% over the same period last year, reaching about $8.25 billion. Foreign investors have invested in 17 out of 21 national economic sectors. The processing and manufacturing industry leads with a total investment capital of 67%, followed by the real estate business, wholesale and retail industries, and warehouse and transportation. In the first 5 months of the year, 78 countries and territories invested in Vietnam. Singapore is in the lead, followed by Hong Kong, China, Japan, and China. On May 27, Lạng Sơn Province and Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region inaugurated a specialized road for goods transport and new custom clearance entrance at the Hữu Nghị and Yongyi Wan border gate. These routes pass through the trade points of Tân Thanh, Phu Giai, Cốc Nam, Nong Yao, and Hữu Nghị, Yongyi Wan. The event is seen as an important milestone for trade and tourism to boost the efficiencies of custom clearance, responding to the increasing trade demands of both Vietnamese and Chinese people. Authorities also launched immigration procedure for citizens of Vietnam and China and at the Tân Thanh Phu Giai trade point. This initiative is expected to significantly improve cross-border trade and cooperation. Since the beginning of the year, lychee season, nearly 6,200 tons of fresh lychees have been exported through Kim Thành International Road Border Gate number 2, valued at over $3.4 million. This is according to the Lào Cai Border Gate Custom authorities. On average, about 50 to 60 trucks carrying fresh lychees are cleared through the Lào Cai Border Gate daily, which is double the number compared to last week. These lychees mainly come from provinces such as Bắc Giang, Hưng Yên, and Hải Dương. Lychees are among the fruits given export priority during custom procedures so that they can be exported and quarantined in a separate channel. Authorities at the border gate started work an hour earlier and arranged additional staffing to support custom clearance. Coming up next on VTV News, businesses and industrial zones actively adopt green energy solutions. And energy transitions to help aviation sector reach net zero emission goals.
When it comes to business, it's crucial to choose a smart location with global impact. And Vietnam might just be the location for you. Connect worldwide to advanced logistics networks. Smart hub for technology and innovation. A dynamic business ecosystem. An environment with a competitive edge.
From May 28, hot weather will affect both the central region and the northern delta region, including Hanoi. Temperatures from Thanh Hóa to Bình Thuận are expected to reach 36 to 38 degrees Celsius, with some areas exceeding 38 degrees. This heat wave may persist for the next 3 days. The northern delta region, including Hanoi, will also experience hot weather over the next 3 days, with temperatures ranging from 35 to 36 degrees Celsius and some area exceeding 36 degrees. The hot weather increases the risk of explosions and fires, especially in residential area, due to the heightened demand for electricity, which can lead to overloads and electrical fires. The electricity demand for the entire economy is expected to increase by approximately 9.6% this year, according to the National Plan for Power Supply and Power System Operation by the Ministry of Industry and Trade. And to ensure there is sufficient electricity for production, businesses and industrial zones have actively implemented green energy solutions. More to follow.
This plastic manufacturing plant has invested over $275,000 in installing rooftop solar panels with a capacity of 550 kilowatts peak.
Previously, I paid over $27,500 per month for electricity, but now I pay about $23,500 on average.
Despite the significant initial investment, this system ensures more stable production for businesses in the long run. Therefore, individual enterprises as well as industrial zones and export processing zones are actively implementing energy solutions from the start to avoid being affected by fluctuating energy conditions. This aligns with the current trend of a green economy.
The industrial zone aims to source 30% of its electricity from renewable sources by 2030.
Currently, rooftop solar power grids can only be self-produced and self-consumed. Enterprises and industrial zones are not allowed to sell electricity directly or through the EVN grid to other businesses in the same area due to the lack of regulations.
We need open but still very specific legal frameworks related to technology, policy, and finance to ensure that businesses can both develop and remain autonomous without adversely affecting the national grid operation.
Industrial zones in Vietnam consume about 15% of the country's total electricity. Promoting green energy through rooftop solar systems is a solution that both reduces pressure on the national grid and helps products gain green certification, thereby enhancing their competitive advantages in exports.
Vietnamese Airlines has worked hard to achieve net zero emission targets by using new generation aircraft in their operations, which are more environmentally friendly thanks to advanced technologies. Furthermore, Monday 27 May marked the first flight using sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, for the Vietnamese national flag carrier on the journey from Singapore to Hanoi. The trip marked a new milestone for Vietnam aviation industries on the path towards the goal of net zero emissions by 2050.
Sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF, is produced from renewable and sustainably sourced materials such as vegetable oils, animal fats, and waste. This type of fuel meets strict international aviation standards and can be safely used for commercial flights. Studies prove that SAF can help reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 80%.
So with Vietnam Airlines, we are confident that we will be able to collaborate more at the various different airports that Vietnam Airlines is operating. We look forward to more opportunities in the very near future.
Although the costs for this fuel can be 2 to 3 times higher than fossil fuels, Vietnam Airlines is still determined to use it for its commercial flights soon.
Using SAF on the flight from Singapore to Hanoi was just the beginning. This is a milestone, an affirmation of Vietnam Airlines' commitment as a national flag carrier to always be at the forefront of environmental protection. The flight can be considered a kickstart for Vietnamese airlines to participate in global environmental protection schemes.
Vietnam Airlines has implemented many drastic measures to reduce CO2, including optimizing flight operations and fuel savings. In 2023, Vietnam Airlines cut nearly 70,000 tons of CO2, a reduction of more than 1.5 times the reduction in 2022. Vietnam Airlines is aiming to become a green airline, contributing to realizing the goal of sustainable development and minimizing the carbon footprints of the Vietnamese aviation industry.
A new model of waste fee collection is being piloted in Hội An City in Quảng Nam Province. The collection is based on the volume and weight using designated trash bags. This initiative promotes fairness and raises awareness among residents about environmental protections, aiming to build an eco-friendly, green, and beautiful urban area.
For the past 6 months, instead of paying a $1.2 sanitation fee, this woman's family in Cam Nam Ward has switched to purchasing trash bags with capacities of 10 liters, 15 liters, and 20 liters. Every day, she sorts waste into organic, inorganic, and recyclable categories for collection.
We should sort waste at the source to minimize waste discharged into the environment. Currently, the landfill can no longer accommodate the city's growing volume of waste. We have to transport waste to other landfills.
In 2023, Hội An piloted a volume-based waste tax program. As such, fees are collected based on the weight or volume of the waste, in accordance with the Environmental Protection Law. Maintaining waste sorting at the source has reduced landfill waste by approximately 30%, turning waste into resources. However, only about 60% of households currently sort waste at the source.
Residents would be more conscious and practice waste sorting at the source if there is inspection and supervision by the authorities.
Convincing residents to voluntarily protect the environment and sort waste at the source is challenging. This process needs to be implemented step by step with appropriate management and supervision mechanisms to gradually change public awareness.
Collecting waste fees based on volume means those who produce less waste will pay less, and those who produce more will pay more. This promotes fairness, fostering changes in consumer behavior.
The method of collecting waste and calculating fees based on volume in Hội An is a new and creative approach. This approach will reduce the amount of household waste and improve post-sorting processing efficiency.
Tỉnh Biên Town and Chi Tôn district of An Giang province are home to vast fields of palm trees. This unique plant not only gives a unique beauty to the mountainous land, but also provides a significant source of income for locals. Crops of palm sugar for hundreds of years have provided livelihood for locals in the region, making them famous for the traditional professions of making palm sugar. While many other crop villages have disappeared, the sugar-making profession is still kept by local people to this day.
Palm sugar is cooked from liquid extracted from flower stalks. To get the cooking ingredients, people have to climb to the tops of the trees to collect liquid. This dangerous act is the livelihood of hundreds of local households.
Before climbing up, I must have this belt to carry a knife and pipes. 25 to 30 liters of liquid can be collected in a single climb up.
Theo quickly climbs up to the top of the tree. He has spent decades climbing up palm trees. These trees are more than 10 meters tall, but it is not a big deal for the experienced harvester. He has made 2 round trips already. It's the end of the harvest, so palm trees don't give much liquid. These farmers have to save every drop.
There is a lot of climbing all year round. It's not difficult if you have a long bamboo pole. It's quite safe actually.
This year, due to the prolonged heat, the palm tree harvest lasted for 2 months. Since December last year, these sugar cooking ovens have not been turned off.
This one is almost done, but these 2 are not even close. I use this stick and keep stirring it until the liquid thickens into sugar. My husband and I woke up at 3 to get liquid. We are cooking it.
One interesting thing about the palm sugar cooking village in Anzang province is that up to now, people still use traditional methods. Although productivity is not high, this method retains special flavors for their products. In Anzang, there are many families working in this sugar-making profession through the generations.
This job makes me feel nostalgic. It's hard, but it's fun. If the sale is good, your products are good, people will praise you, and then you're happy.
The palm sugar making profession of the Khmer people in Chiton district and Tịnh Biên town has been included in the list of National Intangible Cultural Heritage by the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism. Anzang province also has a plan to form an organic palm sugar production business to increase value. This is the basis for helping people preserve and stick to traditional occupations, stabilize their income, and preserve a unique aspect of the locality.
Coming up next in our world news, as many as 2,000 people die in Papua New Guinea landslide. And North Korea say it will launch a rocket within days. As many as 2,000 people are feared to have been buried by last week's massive landslide in Papua New Guinea, according to the country National Disaster Center, as survivors recounted the horror of losing so many loved ones. The United Nations said rescuers are racing against time to find survivors. The landslide occurred in the mountainous Enga regions in northern Papua New Guinea last Friday, and the latest missing figure is a sharp rise from earlier estimates. Locals have been left reeling after tons of rock and mud smashed into their homes as they slept. It has been more than 3 days since the disaster occurred, so evacuators has under time pressure to find survivors. However, dangerous conditions are making rescue operations tricky. Rockfalls and groundwater flowing beneath the rubble has made the surface of the landslide slippery. The country authorities remain focused on paving roads to the village, preparing to transport and distribute the supply and supporting the establishment of temporary shelters for evacuees. North Korea has notified its Northeast Asian neighbor country of its plans to launch a rocket apparently carrying its second satellite during a 8-day period beginning on Monday, 27th of May. those diplomatic channels in Beijing, Japanese Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi asked North Korea to cancel the satellite launch plan. South Korea also warned that North Korea missile launch will be seen as an act that would destabilize regional security. Last month, North Korea announced it would promote the development of space-based surveillance network and reaffirmed its plan to launch multiple spy satellites this year. It is announced that Pyongyang will launch 3 additional military spy satellites in 2024. The freight train service between China and Europe has maintained a double-digit year-on-year growth in the first quarter of this year, facilitating the stable and smooth operations of the international supply chain and promoting connectivity between China and Europe. According to the China Railway Group, freight trains between China and Europe have transported more than 8.7 million containers of goods worth over $380 billion. According to economic experts, as China economy recovers and trade between China and Europe grows, demand for China-Europe freight train service is expected to remain high. These freight trains do not only contribute to bringing Chinese goods to European countries, but are also used for importing many European products and distributing them to Chinese and other Asian markets. And now, as usual, let's continue with the weather forecast. And that's it for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can log on to VTVgo.vn or download our mobile application VTVgo. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.